So chances are you've flown through Dulles International Airport, right? It's that massive gateway to Washington, D.C. But what if I told you the story behind that name, the man it was named after, is a key to understanding so much about how power, oil, and global politics really work? It's a story that, honestly, helps explain the world we're all living in right now. Yeah, you've seen the name. We all have. But do you know the man? Who was John Foster Dulles, really? The answer? Well, it's way more complicated and a whole lot more interesting than you'd think. Okay, so the official story, the one you'll find in history books, is that John Foster Dulles was the U.S. Secretary of State, under President Eisenhower, right in the thick of the Cold War. He was this giant figure in American diplomacy, but as you can probably guess, that's not the whole story, not even close. See, before he was America's top diplomat, John Foster Dulles had a different identity, an identity that you could argue held way more power. He was the senior partner at a huge Wall Street law firm, Sullivan and Cromwell, and his main client, the Rockefeller Oil Empire, Standard Oil. And we're not just talking about a simple client relationship here. No, no, no. These connections were deep, like family deep. His wife, a first cousin of John D. Rockefeller Jr. He was also the chairman of the Rockefeller Foundation. And here's the kicker. His own brother, Allen Dulles, was the director of the CIA. Just think about that for a second. You've got state power, corporate money, and the top intelligence agency all wrapped up in one family. So when you put all that together, the law firm, the oil money, the family ties, the CIA, you get a very specific way of looking at the world, a blueprint for projecting American power. And that blueprint has a name, the Dulles Doctrine. And this is the key that unlocks everything. So what is the Dulles Doctrine? It's pretty simple, actually. It's a strategy where the line between what's good for a giant corporation and what's good for America just disappears. It basically says that U.S. corporate interests, especially oil interests, are the same as U.S. national security. And the goal? To get access to resources all over the globe by any means necessary. And believe me, this was not just some idea on paper. Oh no, it became a playbook, a formula they could use over and over again. Look at the Middle East. The resource was oil. The action? Used the CIA to topple any leader who even thought about nationalizing it. Or Vietnam. The resources were rubber, tin, and rice. Dulles himself called it the Rice Bowl of Asia. So the war was sold as a fight to secure those resources. You see the pattern, right? It's the same move, different country. All right, so let's get into the specifics. Let's see how this doctrine actually played out in the real world. We're going to look at 3 case studies: Iran, a tiny place called Timor-Leste, and Venezuela. And they really show the long-term damage this kind of thinking can do. Okay, let's start with Iran. And I want you to look at this picture. It's from the 1940s. If you had to guess where it was taken, what would you say? Maybe a small town in Texas, right? But as Vic Myers, Resistor Vic, points out, that picture was actually taken in Iran. Yeah, before 1953, Iran had a democracy, a vibrant culture. It might look a lot more familiar than you think. So, what happened? Well, here's what happened. In 1951, the democratically elected Prime Minister Mossadegh did something radical. He said Iran's oil should belong to the people of Iran. He nationalized the entire industry. The reaction was swift. John Foster Dulles at the State Department and his brother Allen at the CIA fired up Operation Ajax. They staged a coup, got rid of Mossadegh, and installed a dictator, the Shah. And the payoff? The companies that grew out of Rockefeller's Standard Oil got a 40% stake in Iranian oil back. Just like that. Okay, fast forward a few decades. The doctrine is still alive and well. Now we're in the Timor Sea. U.S. oil companies like Esso, yep, a Standard Oil descendant, wanted to drill in this disputed area called the Timor Gap. The solution they came up with was, well, it was a dark piece of geopolitical chess. A triple play, you could call it. Australia figured it could get a sweeter deal if Indonesia just took over the territory of East Timor. So the U.S. gave Indonesia the green light to invade in 1975. And if you want to know just how cynical this whole thing was, get this. When the Australian and Indonesian officials finally signed the treaty to carve up the oil fields, they, and I'm not making this up, they literally toasted with champagne while flying in a plane over the Timor Sea. They're celebrating a corporate deal in the sky, while on the ground, the people of Timor-Leste were living under one of the most brutal occupations of the 20th century. So all those years, all those billions of dollars in resources being pumped out of their waters, how much do you think the people of Timor-Leste got? The answer is on the screen. 0. Not a single penny. It's just a brutal reminder of the real human cost of these games. And that brings us right up to today, to a conflict that's still going on, Venezuela. Why is there so much tension between the US and Venezuela? Well, you can trace it all back to this same story. It's the unfinished business of the Rockefeller Empire. The whole standoff started when Venezuela nationalized its oil back in 1976. Oil assets that were originally built and owned by, you guessed it, Standard Oil, which is now ExxonMobil. It's the Dulles Doctrine, still playing out right now. Okay, but the world has changed, right? You can't just send in the CIA to overthrow a government, at least not as easily. So what happens to the doctrine? Does it just go away? No, it adapts, it upgrades. The goal, control, is exactly the same. But the tools are going digital. This chart really lays it all out. Think of it as Dulles 1.0 versus Dulles 2.0. In the 1950s, the primary tool was the CIA and a good old-fashioned coup. The target was physical stuff, like oil and gas. In the 2020s, the tool is a central bank digital currency, or just financial deplatforming, kicking someone out of the system. And the target? It's not just oil anymore. It's human behavior. It's your data. The control points used to be pipelines and shipping lanes. Now they're digital IDs and blockchain rails. The leverage isn't a military threat anymore. It's your social credit score or your KYC compliance. And a huge piece of this new toolkit is something called a central bank digital currency, or CBDC. This is important. Think of it as programmable money. It's not like the cash in your wallet. With a CBDC, every single thing you buy or sell can be seen, tracked, and controlled. If the powers that be don't like what you're doing, they don't need to send soldiers. They can just flip a switch. Your money could be restricted or just turned off, all with a keystroke. So how do they build this new digital fence around us? It's basically a three-step plan. Step 1, a digital ID. Link everything you do back to a single biometric identity. Step 2, KYC, or Know Your Customer rules. These get rid of financial privacy and anonymity for good. And finally, Step 3, behavioral control. Your ability to even participate in the economy, to buy, to sell, to live, gets tied directly to your compliance. It's a system of total surveillance that the Dulles brothers could have only dreamed about. So when you step back and look at the big picture, from a lawyer's office on Wall Street in the 1920s all the way to the digital architecture being built right now, you see this incredible through line. The basic game, securing resources and controlling people, it hasn't changed at all. Only the tools have gotten more sophisticated. And that leaves us with one last, really important question. If John Foster Dulles was the great fixer for the powers of his day, who are the fixers of today?